Hello, my name is Co Williams. I'm with the Free Pack, and today I'm interviewing Mr. Bledsoe. Can you tell us about yourself and your campaign?
Sure. My name is James Bledsoe. I'm running for Raleigh City Council at large. I currently work for the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. I help manage WIC. So every time you go to the grocery store, you'll see little WIC signs. That's for women, infants needing supplemental care. I'm also in the United States Army. Been in for 17 years. I used to drive tanks. I used to be reconnaissance, airborne, and now a combat engineer. Unfortunately, I'm one of the 60,000 soldiers that are getting the boot right now due to the vaccine, so I'm on my way out. But I am running for Raleigh City Council, and I'm glad to be here.
Well, can you tell us why you're running as an unaffiliated?
Sure. I've never really been attracted to the Democrat or Republican Party because I don't like Democrat policies. I think that their spending is always terrible. I mean, moderate Democrats, sure, they're fine. However, as we see the left going further left, I just can't get on board with that. And I've never been a Republican because I frankly feel that the GOP has been asleep at the wheel for the past 4 decades, and I'm waiting to see good candidates emerge from that party. So, been unaffiliated my entire life, and I'm glad to have gotten the GOP endorsement and the Libertarian Party endorsement, and hopefully I can bring together both sides and provide a new direction for everybody.
How qualified are you for this position?
I'd say I'm uniquely qualified because I'm one of 2 combat veterans running for office. John Odom is the other one. He is a Vietnam veteran, but I feel that my time in the Army has prepared me for all roles of leadership. So I've managed millions of dollars worth of equipment. I've led men and women in various roles. Even my various jobs in state and federal government have prepared me for this, for itemized inventory, tackling big plans, small plans, and even keeping track of personnel. Big, small, I feel that I've done a job similar before and rightly prepared for this.
How can you address the rising cost of living as far as rent and housing prices?
Sure. Housing is going to keep going up, unfortunately, because of COVID for the next 2-3 years. There's nothing anyone can do about that. Because COVID shut down all new housing development, it's going to take a while for that to kick back up. Fannie Mae says it'll take 5 years. Other estimates say it'll take anywhere between 3 years. But what we can do to address that is to get ahead of the game, get the path set up for housing development. That means upzoning areas along the bus rapid transit corridor that is coming in. We can upzone places like that. That means changing the density. So instead of just having 3-story houses, we can now have 7-story houses or more apartments. My biggest thing is deregulation of the housing market and also the business market. And I would love to see mixed use come in along the BRT corridor. Like, say the first 2 stories are just business. So you can have small businesses or you can have chains, whatever. But every story above that have apartment complexes or condos, housing, some sort. And then remove the height restrictions for all of Raleigh. That way we're not stuck with 3-story apartments and that's it. Bring in some 5-story, some 6-story, start building up. Because we can't expand anymore. Like Raleigh has officially run out of space unless we start annexing more parts of Wake County. So we have to start building up and down instead of out at this point. So plain and simple, I want to deregulate the housing market, build up instead of out, and get as much housing in as possible through infill and deregulation.
What other laws do you plan on changing or adding?
As far as laws, can't really change too many laws, but I can change policies. I've always been a proponent that Raleigh's nightlife is being underutilized. It's a large market that needs to flourish, especially on Glenwood. I do like how the City Council created the social district. But essentially during COVID, they've shut down a lot of businesses, and we need to recover those as soon as possible. I want to see food trucks being able to operate. So I want to deregulate as much business restrictions as possible, whether that be small business or large. I want to see places open longer. That's about it on the business side, but I really don't feel that there needs to be too much more regulation in place in Raleigh.
How do you feel about the current state of Raleigh?
I feel that it's progressively getting worse. When I was in Iraq in 2020, I had left thinking that things were going to be fine. Unfortunately, I did have an internet connection while I was there, and I saw my city get burned, looted, rioted. I saw our mayor, Marianne Baldwin, play the race card repeatedly, and she is quoted on WRAL saying that it's mostly white people doing the rioting. I'm not a fan of race politics or race baiting whatsoever. Our taxes have gone up, housing costs have skyrocketed, crime is continuously increasing. Our firefighters and police officers are being driven away because they can't afford to live here, and it's just not a safe city anymore. We are definitely going down the path of, Seattle and West Coast cities. I don't want to see Raleigh go into a full-blown blue city.
What do you think made Raleigh so great before?
Raleigh was great before because there was a lot of innovation, there was a lot of potential, there's a lot less restrictions, out there. Minus the housing market, of course, single-family homes were the only thing that could be built, but, there was just so much potential, and then as soon as COVID hit, the brakes got stopped, got thrown on immediately, and it just seems that we're still spiraling downwards because of policy. And that's all because of this council, our Wake County commissioners, and folks that want to keep a stranglehold over your liberties and to keep raising taxes, to keep blowing out spending. I had a $140,000 house when I moved to Raleigh. My very first house was $140,000. Now it's upwards of $330,000. The taxes are getting out of control. Due to inflation, I can spend a lot less. There's far less small businesses that I can frequent now. A lot of places are still boarded up. Raleigh used to be a great city, again, with a lot of potential, but now it's just being withered away.
So the next question is, how do you feel about all the New Yorkers and Californians moving here?
Welcome to Raleigh. However, keep your politics back where you came from. I will absolutely fight to make sure that we don't turn Raleigh into that place that you just fled from.
What plans do you have to address the rising crime and illegal immigration here?
I do plan to work with the Wake County Sheriff to address the immigration issue first. If Donnie Harrison does get reelected as sheriff, I very much hope that he removes the ICE policy that our current Sheriff Baker put in place, where he refuses to work with ICE. We have had illegal immigrants come in and increase crime in the area. It's very hard to determine what that crime increase is, because in order to get that stat, you have to know how many are actually here, and it's impossible to know. But we do know that murders are occurring from illegal aliens. In 2019, an illegal alien without a driver's license who was drunk was riding along in southeast Raleigh and hit a single father and killed him. So now his child will grow up without a father. We do know that crime is being committed by illegal aliens coming in here, and I want to work with Donnie Harrison to make sure that we cut that off. But as far as crime goes in Raleigh, murders have gone from 30 in 2020, 33 in 2021, and as of last night, we just broke that record, unfortunately. So I plan to address that by fixing the RFD and RPD pay, using the Department of Defense pay plan. That way it eliminates all pay compression, all pay leapfrogging, and what that is where a new officer comes in, they have a higher pay because the council wants to attract more officers. The folks at the higher end of RPD, they don't see a penny of that. So you have guys that have been in for 10 years are now making less than the new folks coming in. So my pay plan is going to fix every last one of those issues. I do plan to cut about $3 to $5 million out of the Raleigh City Council budget and shift that into paying off taxes and debts, but also to fund our Raleigh Fire Department and the police department, because it's absolutely heinous that you can make more working at Sheetz and Taco Bell than you can as a Raleigh firefighter, and they only make $15 an hour.
So the next question would be like, what is at stake at this election?
What's at stake right now is growing crime. Before the interview, I showed you the crime stats that Raleigh had released. You see that response times were great. They were, around 5 to 7 minutes, which is fantastic considering if you have officers respond to the scene. However, the stats that Raleigh produced was you see that crime is increasing every single year, and their 2023 predictions show that response times are going to be less adequate because we have no officers to respond. I mean, we have very few officers respond. Maybe only 7 police cars are running each night. So that's if one thing goes off, then they generally all have to respond back to that one incident. So we're looking at a serious rise in crime. That means more vehicle break-ins here on campus. I know that is a huge issue. Violent crime is going to continue to increase. We're looking at a 10% increase in crime just in next year if we do not tackle this crime issue now.
Can you tell us about the shooting that happened recently in Raleigh?
Yes. So last night there was a white male on the greenways, as far as I know. He had shot an off-duty police officer on his way to work. Unfortunately, that police officer died. 4 other citizens of Raleigh were also shot. The details are vague as to why this kid did this. It's absolutely evil. So even if we do find out his name, I'm never going to repeat it. I'm not going to give him the notoriety that he wanted, assuming that that's what it was. But there was also another officer that was shot and injured and released this morning, as well as 2 other citizens that were injured. The shooter was shot in the head, as far as I know, and was taken to Wake Med. Is in critical condition. But this is, unfortunately, the straw that broke the camel's back as far as records in Raleigh for murders. At this point, we are going to surpass our 2022 numbers. Our 2021 numbers of 33 murders. Violent crime is just going to increase, and unfortunately, this is just a result of that. We have so few officers here in Raleigh, crime is just going to increase.
What do you have to say to the people voting in this election?
I'm going to say, please don't listen to platitudes, because those are flying around a lot right now. If you want less taxes, less spending, please vote for me. If you want Raleigh to be safer, and not just for crime, but also for fire response, rescue response, please vote for me. If you want someone who has spent plenty of time in the Army and knows about leadership and can absolutely handle the tough situations and calls that need to be made, please vote for me. But also, look at your fellow candidates out there. Research them as much as possible. I know there's a lot, but vote for the ones that are in your district. Research the at-large, because there's 2 of us. There's 2 seats that you can vote for. And then, just keep doing research, look at your candidates, and please show up to vote.
Can you tell us about your candidates before we leave this interview?
My fellow candidates?
Oh, yes, sorry, your fellow candidates.
So, Mayor, you have 3 candidates running. You have Mayor Baldwin. I can't, endorse her or any other mayoral candidate because, quite frankly, I think that Mayor Baldwin has done a very poor job. I think she has violated the U.S. and North Carolina Constitution by curtailing what people can say, by having people removed by the police, using police force from the podium at Raleigh City Council meetings. I've heard Terrence Ruth speak for 4 minutes multiple times, and I still have no idea what he's running for. The 3rd candidate, I think she is just an activist. As far as your at-large candidates, you have myself. I highly recommend John Odom because he will certainly bring his previous experience on the Raleigh City Council back. You have Jonathan Melton, who is the current incumbent. I suggest people look at his voting record, also the way that he has handled this whole situation. Again, I'm not going to endorse any candidate that's currently on council because I feel that they've done a very poor job. Let's see here. There are probably about 5 more candidates running for at-large. Again, I'd ask that your viewers please research those candidates. As far as districts A, B, C, D, and E, a lot of candidates running. I unfortunately have not met them all, but I would recommend Whitney Hill and Rob Baumgart. They are running for Raleigh City Council. There are definitely going to be some very progressive and far left-leaning activists running for this one, and then you have a lot of moderates running. So again, please do your research, find out who best resonates with what you want to do, and vote.
So, where can we find your work?
All right, my website is electjamesbledsoe.com. That's where people will find the majority of my platform. I get back to people pretty quickly. I'm on Twitter. I have a Facebook page. For Twitter, it's James Bledsoe. You know, I'm the handsome guy that's on the picture there that looks just like this. Same thing on the Facebook page. As far as that goes, again, I do get back pretty quickly on email, social media accounts. If anybody has any questions whatsoever, please reach out to me, and I will be happy to respond back.